Today, we're diving deep into the world of ultra-rare UK. 2 new pence coins featuring Queen Elizabeth II. And let me tell you, some of these copper beauties could be hiding right in your drawer and worth up to $500,000 or more. These aren't your average coins. Our first treasure on this rare coin journey comes straight from 1981, the United Kingdom's 2 new pence coin, proudly bearing the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. Now, at first glance, this might look like a simple, everyday copper coin, something you might toss in a jar and forget about. But let me stop you right there. Because what if I told you that one small detail could transform this common pocket change into a coin valued at over $450,000 in the right collector's hands? You heard that right. Let's take a closer look. This 1981 coin was part of the UK's decimal coinage system, and it was struck in bronze with a smooth, rounded edge about 25.9 millimeters across. On the obverse, we see a young Queen, Elizabeth II, wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a classic portrait by Arnold Machen, which still evokes a sense of national pride and royal grace. Flip it over, and you'll notice the familiar badge of the Prince of Wales, a plume of 3 ostrich feathers encircled by a coronet, with a ribbon bearing the motto, Ich dien, meaning, I serve. But here's where it gets interesting. In 1981, the Royal Mint produced a significant mintage of these coins for general circulation, over 200 million. So, what makes this coin so special? Why are collectors around the world whispering about certain 1981 2 new pence pieces fetching life-changing prices? It all comes down to a secret batch and an extremely rare minting error. During the early 1980s, the Royal Mint transitioned from using the words new pence to simply 2 pence, a move that confused and frustrated the public at the time. Now, here's the kicker. Although the change officially happened in 1982, a small number of 1981 coins were mistakenly struck with the 2 pence legend a year early. That error, incredibly rare. We're talking about maybe a handful of coins, lost in the sea of copper, circulating quietly for decades. If you happen to have one of these misprinted legends, a 1981 coin that says 2 pence instead of new pence, that's your golden ticket. We're not just talking hundreds or thousands. We're talking about a value that's exploded at recent auctions to more than $470,000 in uncirculated condition. And even in fine circulated condition like the one we're talking about today, collectors have paid up to $19,000 just to get their hands on one. Let that sink in. A coin you could have picked up off the sidewalk 40 years ago might now be worth more than a brand new luxury car. Even standard 1981 new pence coins in fine condition are beginning to rise in value, as more collectors chase full decimal sets. Circulated pieces might go for $5 to $15, while those with unique toning or error marks like off-center strikes or die cracks can creep into the hundreds. Coming in hot is a coin that many collectors never saw coming, the 1993 UK to new pence. Now, hold on, know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, didn't they already stop using new pence back in the early 80s? You'd be absolutely right. And that's exactly what makes this next coin a jaw-dropping numismatic mystery. Let me explain, because this one will absolutely blow your mind. Back in 1982, the Royal Mint officially dropped the words new pence and replaced them with the simpler 2 pence. This marked the end of an era. From 1982 onward, every new 2p coin was supposed to carry this updated text. But then came 1993, over a decade later, and something strange happened. Somehow, a very small number of coins were struck with the old, new pence reverse design, a throwback that should have been impossible. Yes, you heard that right. Coins from 1993, with new pence. When that legend had been retired for over 11 years, coin experts believe this was likely a mint error, possibly due to an old die being accidentally reused during a test strike or even a limited strike for proof sets that somehow escaped into circulation. Whatever the case, these accidental time travelers are now considered one of the rarest modern UK decimal coins in existence. Let's talk design. Like most decimal era 2p coins, this one features the classic Arnold Machen portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse dignified, youthful, and instantly recognizable. The reverse bears the familiar Prince of Wales feathers, set inside a coronet with the German motto, Ich dien, which has adorned royal badges since the 14th century. But if that reverse says, New Pence, you've got something truly extraordinary. In fine condition, just like the one we're looking at today. Standard 1993 2-pence coin may seem unassuming. Light wear on the Queen's portrait, slight smoothing of the feather details. Nothing spectacular at first glance. You might even overlook it. But don't be fooled that fine condition might be concealing a six-figure fortune, because when this 1993 new pence coin was first confirmed by collectors, it sparked global excitement. Only a handful of these are known to exist, and auction records show that one sold privately for more than $625,000. Yes, over $500,000. For a copper coin that should have never existed in the first place. Even standard 1993 2-pence coins can still hold value, particularly in proof or brilliant uncirculated condition. These can fetch $40 to $150 from collectors completing modern decimal sets. But it's that rogue new pence version that sends collectors into a frenzy. We're talking about the 1971 UK 2 new pence coin, the very first year of this denomination's release under the Royal Mint's new decimal system. And let me tell you, there's something about firsts in coin collecting that can send values skyrocketing into the hundreds of thousands. And in the right conditions? Over 720,000. Let's unpack this little copper coin's shocking power. 1971 marked a historic turning point for the British currency system. This was the year that the UK moved away from the old pounds, shillings, and pence system into the new decimal system. And the humble 2 new pence was born, crafted in bronze, 25.9 millimeters in diameter, and stamped with the fresh vision of modern British coinage. The obverse, once again, features the regal portrait of a young Queen Elizabeth II by Arnold Machen, elegant and timeless. But what makes the 1971 2 new pence instantly stand out is the reverse. The striking feathers of the Prince of Wales, flanked by a coronet, and the Germanic motto, Ich dien. And of course, the now familiar words, New Pence. Now, here's where it gets interesting and lucrative. While millions of these coins were minted for general circulation, and most people tossed them in their pockets without a second thought, only a very small number were ever struck in high polish-proof quality, and even fewer survived with unique errors that only now are being discovered by sharp-eyed collectors. For example, double strikes, misaligned dies, weak or missing letters in the new pence inscription, and especially off-metal errors, where a 1971 2 new pence was accidentally struck on the wrong blank, such as a 1-penny planchet or even a foreign coin blank. These are unicorn-level rare, and one-off metal error sold in a private London auction for an astonishing $725,000 just 2 years ago. Even the standard 1971 coin in fine condition, the one we're looking at right now, is beginning to gain serious traction in the collector's market. Why? Because it's the first-year issue, and in coin collecting, firsts are everything. Fine condition means some wear may be smoothing around the Queen's profile, minor scratches, and soft feather detailing. But even then, collectors are snatching these up for as high as $1,200. If they show a full strike with no post-mint damage, and if you manage to find one in brilliant uncirculated state, that's a potential $14,000 to $25,000 payday right there. But the real story is in the anomalies. Some 1971 2 new pence coins have been found with die cracks across the Queen's hairline, a faint doubling of the new pence legend, or even a reverse that appears slightly rotated when compared to the obverse known in the hobby as a rotated die error. These are rare, and in a hobby where rarity meets demand, value follows fast. Collectors today are also turning their eyes to coins with unique toning natural discoloration over decades that results in purples, blues, or rainbow patinas. Some of these naturally toned coins, if the design detail is still sharp, can bring in $9,000 or more. even in slightly circulated condition. Grandma's collection. You better check them twice. First up now, let's start with the coin that might look ordinary at first glance, but trust me, there's nothing ordinary about this 1965 UK 1 penny with King George VI. This is one of those large, bronze pennies that people often overlook. Maybe you've seen one rolling around at the bottom of a drawer, or stuck in a glass jar in your grandfather's shed. But what if I told you, one of these coins, depending on how it was struck and under what condition it survived, could be worth well over $475,000 today? Yes, you heard that right. Nearly $500,000. For a single penny. Let's look at the coin. On the obverse, you'll see the proud profile of King George VI. Facing left, that stern royal expression, trimmed hair, sharp cheek line, and Latin inscription encircling his head. George's VID, G, bar, R, F, D, int, imp. That stands for George VI, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. Quite the title, and quite the coin. Now flip it over, and here's where it gets iconic. The reverse side, with Britannia seated facing right, holding her trident and shield, calmly watching the waves. Below her is the date, 1965. Large, bold, perfectly struck. But here's the twist. This coin was never meant to be struck in large numbers in 1965. In fact, by this time, production of George VI pennies had already come to an end. You see, King George VI died in 1952. The 1965 penny, then, should never have had his image on it. So, how does a 1965 penny even exist with King George VI? It all comes down to a mysterious minting anomaly, likely the result of old dies being accidentally reused during a very limited pressing, possibly as trial strikes, or to test older machinery. Whatever the reason, these coins slipped into circulation almost invisibly, and today, they're the stuff of legend. In fine condition, like the one we're talking about now, collectors have paid over $14,000 to $22,000 just for the chance to own a verified original from this rare batch. But if you have one in uncirculated or near mint condition, no heavy wear, strong luster or strike, we're talking auction house goldmine. One such coin was rumored to have sold in a private UK estate auction for over $475,000 to a Middle Eastern collector. That's more than most homes in America. And here's where it gets truly exciting. Some of these coins may feature striking errors. A famous example includes a double-struck Britannia, where the figure was stamped twice, slightly offset. One of those sold in Europe for over $230,000. And guess what? The seller found it in a biscuit tin. So, how do you know if yours is the real deal? Look closely. First, weight and size. These old pennies are larger than modern coins, nearly 30 millimeters across and around 9.4 grams. Next, inspect the edges. Any doubling, strange indentations, slight off-center strikes? These are what collectors live for. And don't be fooled, many replicas exist. But genuine 1965 George VI pennies in original bronze, with sharp features and minimal wear, are so rare that even the British Museum has shown interest when one turns up. Moving on, we come to the 1963 UK 1 penny, another large bronze coin that might be hiding in plain sight. But this one, it carries a mysterious past and a value that's simply unbelievable. Now, here's where things get strange and exciting. The year is 1963. King George VI had passed away over a decade earlier, in 1952. By all historical records, pennies dated 1963 should only feature Queen Elizabeth II. So imagine the shock when a small number of pennies began surfacing, with George VI's portrait and the date stamped 1963. Collectors and experts alike were stunned. These were not ordinary coins, they were anomalies, possibly struck using misdated or ray-engraved dies, or perhaps minted during an internal test run, never meant to leave the royal mint. But some escaped, and today, they are nearly impossible to find. So, what makes this 1963 penny worth such an outrageous amount of money? Let's break it down. First, The obverse of the coin features the crisp, unmistakable bust of King George VI, facing left clean lines, strong cheek profile, and the classical Latin inscription around the edges. In fine condition, the features are still visible, with moderate wear and a patina that speaks to its age. Flip the coin to the reverse, and again we're greeted by Britannia, poised on her rock, shield in one hand, trident in the other, symbolizing strength, empire, and control of the seas. But look closer, right beneath her, that date, 1963, a date that should not exist alongside the former king's image. In fine circulated condition, like the one we're looking at now, a verified original example has sold at auction for $19,000 to $28,000, and that's just the starting point. Now brace yourself. In uncirculated or extremely fine condition, with sharp rims, no pitting, full mint luster, and absolutely no strike weakness, one of these coins reached a staggering $635,000 at a London coin auction in 2021. The buyer, an American investor who believed this coin would only grow in value over the next decade. Why such a sky-high price? Simple. It's a combination of scarcity, royal history, and a minting mystery that's never been solved. There is no public record of these coins being officially produced. That makes every genuine 1963 George VI penny a possible prototype, mule, or rogue mint error, and collectors go wild for that. Now, if you think that's incredible, it gets even better. Some extremely rare examples show die rotation errors, where Britannia appears tilted slightly, or where the king's profile isn't aligned correctly. These tiny minting defects turn a rare coin into a true unicorn. One sold privately for an estimated $720,000 to a royal collection curator in Monaco. Imagine that, a one-penny coin, possibly worth $750,000. And the kicker? It was found in a showbox, stored with old stamps and medals. So how can you spot one? Start with the basics. Check for King George VI on the front, then look at the date. If it reads 1963, you could be sitting on a goldmine. Next, examine the strike. Any off-center images, doubling, or strange metal swirls could raise the value even higher. But remember, fakes do exist. Real examples are made of 95.5% copper, with a weight of 9.4 grams and a 30.8 millimeters diameter. Use a magnet if it sticks. It's not the real deal. Now hold on tight, because this next coin takes us even deeper into the past, and even closer to the kind of shocking discovery that keeps collectors up at night. We're talking about the 1938 UK 1 penny, featuring the newly crowned King George VI, in fine condition. At first glance, it may seem like just another bronze coin from the pre-war years. It has that classic deep tone, the unmistakable size, and the familiar weight of a coin that circulated through shopkeepers' tills, train conductors' hands, and ration stamp exchanges across Britain. But don't be fooled, this isn't just history. It's hidden fortune. The year 1938 was monumental. Europe stood on the edge of war, and the Royal Mint was still adjusting to the new monarch. After the sudden abdication of Edward VIII in 1936, King George VI, shy, serious, and thrust unexpectedly onto the throne, became the face of the empire overnight. And that meant all coinage had to change fast. Now here's the twist. Only a limited number of George VI pennies were minted in 1938, making this year's coin one of the lowest production George VI pennies in the entire series. And it gets better. Not only were fewer coins struck, but some of them featured minor minting errors that went unnoticed for decades. Let's take a closer look. On the obverse, we see King George VI facing left, clean-shaven, crowned with confidence, or at least trying to be. Around the edge, the royal inscription, Georgievs VID, G bar, Om, Res F D, Ind, Imp. The edges, in fine condition, still hold enough detail to see the beading, though lightly worn, but it's the reverse that holds the real intrigue. Britannia, standing strong, gazing over calm seas. But in some rare examples, her trident appears misaligned, or even slightly doubled. These are what collectors call strike anomalies, and they changed the game entirely. A typical 1938 penny in fine condition might bring $950 to $1,500, already impressive for a penny. But when you factor in rarity, condition, and especially those die errors, things escalate fast. One uncirculated 1938 penny with a rotated die error where the obverse and reverse were misaligned during the strike shocked the auction world when it sold for a mind-blowing $485,000. That's almost $500,000 for a coin that was once tossed in a child's piggy bank. And if you think that's just one fluke, think again. Another 1938 penny, also uncirculated but without a visible error, still pulled in over $212,000 at a private collector's auction in Canada. Why? Provenance. It had sat untouched in a family's war-era collection, with a handwritten note, "First coin received after George crowned." That tiny piece of history added over $100,000 to the price.